So I'm here with producer and hip hop legend Daddy O. You produce songs for popular rappers and singers till this day like Queen Latifah, Mary J. Blige, Shantae Moore, Lil Kim, and even the Red Hot Chili Peppers. How did all this come about?
On the production side, I never really wanted to be a producer. Like I wasn't. I was intent on rapping. Like I just really wanted to rap. I learned how to produce from two guys in my band in Stetsasonic. I learned how to produce from DBC and Prince Paul because when they got in the band, I knew how to DJ a little bit, but I didn't know anything about production. But when they got into the band, they had equipment, which I had never seen before, like drum machines and stuff. I had never seen, I saw band, regular instruments, but I never saw drum machines and all that. I was just, I knew about turntables. I knew about rapping the turntables. And then what happened is that DBC used to come to my crib all the time for us to practice because he used to live upstate New York and we was in New York City. And when he used to fall asleep at my house, I used to get on his machines.
And practice.
Yeah, and just learn how he was doing what he was doing. So that's how I learned how to produce. That's how I learned how to produce records, doing that. And then everything else happened, pretty organically. Signed to Rush artists, and at Rush, there was a woman there. She's actually a filmmaker now. Her name is Lisa Cortez, and she came up with an idea to do this thing called Rush Artist Producers, which is like she took all the producers that was in the bands. Dan Matt J. Gus, the Bomb Squad from Public Enemy, me, Prince Paul, and DBC from Stetsasonic, and so on and so on, and decided to just create a whole different branch of the management company that would just handle the producers and try to get them work. And the Sonic Youth, Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, a lot of that stuff came about because the other guys that were part of that production, they either didn't know alternative rock and pop, or they didn't want to do it. And I was gung-ho to do it. And, the other stuff just came about real naturally. I knew Puff a long time, so we ended up working on the Mary records together. Once I got popular as a producer, of course, there was some demand there. So that's how I got to work with people like Levert, Shantae Moore, etc.
Okay, and that's interesting that you said that. In 2018, you had an interview with Crazy King, and you've made a statement when you talk about hip hop is where you from, not where you at. Do you remember why you made that statement?
Yeah, I said Rakim told the biggest lie in hip hop. I stand by it. And that's no diss to Rakim. That's just to say that hip hop has always been about location. And I give examples. Scarface would never deny Houston. Snoop would never deny L.A. Griselda doesn't even deny Buffalo. Griselda don't front like a lot of people who front and they say, you be in another state and the person say, you from New York. And they say, where in New York? Buffalo. And you be thinking they from New York, New York. Griselda don't even hide that they from Buffalo. So hip hop, in terms of its origin, has always been about territories. The beginning of hip hop started in the Bronx. Those guys won't let you live that down. They made tons of records saying that the Bronx is the home of hip hop. The Bronx is the motherland of hip hop. They'll never let you live that down. So Biggie don't let you live down that we from Brooklyn. You gotta know that. That's what you gotta know. So when I hear a statement like that, it ain't where you from, it's where you at. Maybe he meant something different. Maybe he meant personally, right now, where I am is not where I'm from, where I am. But hip hop has always been territorial.
Okay. And then this goes back, my next question goes back to when you were working with Junior Mafia, because, there's always been that thing that Biggie discovered them, but you actually discovered them, correct?
Well, Un really really put together, Lance Rivera really put together Junior Mafia. I was the artist development coach, the one that crafted the whole massive of them. Like took Kim, made Kim this kind of part of it, made Season them this kind of part of it, made Clep and them this kind of part of it. He had an idea, but he wasn't a music guy. And to this day, he's still much more of a visionary, much more of a person that, Un's more fit for movies. He's actually working on a television series called Fulton Street right now. And that's great because that's what Un does. Like Un is a visionary. He sees things, he sees pictures in his head all the time. So he came to the crib because we used to live very close. He lived around the corner. His brother just lived right next door to me. Which, fun fact, Just is the first person to have the Biggie tape. Mm-hmm. This is before Mr. C or Matty C from the Source magazine had it. He's the first one to have that. So I used to live next door to Just. Just told his brother that I was next door. I had a full-fledged 24-track studio in my basement, and came and saw me, and it was like, yo, man, I want to put together this group. I got this idea. I got Biggie's okay, and I said, what is it? And then he showed me like pictures, like cats that drew pictures, trying to show me the vision of Junior Mafia and how it was like, it was the Junior Mafia was really a concept of Big being locked up and them handling his business before he came home. Mm-hmm. And that's why Lil' Kim was the lieutenant and Clep had a different part. It was a group called the Snakes. That's what Ray Sean and them was in. That was a different part. And then a group called the Sixers, which Lil C's in them. They all played this little role. And the Junior Mafia album conceptually, which is why you see one of the guys on a stretcher and in the hospital, because that was part of the vision. It's a whole big thing that happened behind that. And that was the idea. Came to me, and then we just started producing records because that's what I do. I had a 24-track studio. I started making records on Kim and Junior Mafia and pulling it together. And once we had demos that were, viable, I know that's not a word, but once we had demos that was, good enough for the vibe, we let Biggie hear it, and he liked it. He did whatever we needed him to do, rhyme on records, whatever. And then, we shopped it around. We didn't get a deal right away. Mm-hmm. A lot of people kind of fronted. They was mad after they did, but a lot of people was like, oh, we don't know if this is going to work. And Craig Callman at Atlantic was willing enough to take the chance.
Okay, so I have two questions in regards to that particular part of the era. Number one, mm-hmm. Gil said, we need another Self-Destruction album. What you say about that?
I'm working on it now. Self-Destruction 2 is it's been in full effect for pre-COVID. But what's happening is that I can't do one record this time. Because it's just too many MCs and it's too much going on, right? So what I mean by that is when we did the first Self-Destruction, we only talked about violence. This time around, we're going to talk about violence again, but I'm saying this is us talking about straight up murder, right? Because violence is one thing, but when you use the word murder, you understand what murder is. So we're talking about murder, but then we got all types of other crises that are plaguing these kids. Opioid crises, human trafficking. We never even thought we would have a conversation in hip hop about suicide, but it's there now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this particular movement of self-destruction is not totally different, but it's definitely a big expansion on what we did the first time around. And the first record is almost done. It's gonna be great. And then we're crafting it. I mean, I already have reached out to like all of my favorite producers. So I got records from Premier, Large Professor, Pete Rock, Easy Mo B. Like I had reached out to them earlier to get the track. So I'm sitting on a whole bunch of heat. Now we're just putting the pieces together. Mm-hmm. who goes on what. Because this time around, I did it a little different than Chris did it the first time around. First time around, Chris pretty much was gathering MCs even before they really had the main track in place. Right. Me, I'm gathering producers before I put MCs on it because there's so many rappers. And so as we build out, as we kind of sift through this thing, it's taken on a lot of iterations, I can't lie, even before anything happens, because we're seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, figuring out some things. I know one of the things that we're definitely doing is pairing some of what people might call OGs, but I call it classic hip hop, but pairing some of the classic hip hop artists with new artists. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But there's a whole bunch of other dynamic things that we're doing on that. But yeah, will it become an album? We're going to think about making, what we would like to do is once we put out one record, we would like to do a record a month and do 12. We didn't start in January, so we can't look at it like that. And then kind of figure out, does that end up being a collective? What that is, because there's so much more than we can do nowadays than we could do then. When we put the first record out, vinyl was, the main seller records. People, vinyls and cassettes. There was no CDs. Right. So that's a whole different. What we could do with the internet now, just some of the digital, and just in terms of help people. Because let me close this question by saying this. My idea from the beginning of working on the Self-Destruction 2 was, I want to pair and partner with the people that are doing the real work. What I mean by that is people who are in soup kitchens every day, people who are helping with human trafficking every day, people who are really doing the work. I call myself an artist worker. Mm-hmm. We can't call ourselves real workers. We're not giving up our whole lives just to do it. Right. So, it's cute to say, yeah, I'm doing something, but we're really not doing that, right? So the issue is to be the soundtrack for something that can be done, right? And then as we receive proceeds, begin to start putting them into places where people need help.
Okay. Now, with the original Self-Destruction, you said that LL Cool J wrote the lyrics for MC Lyte. She's one of my favorites, so I can't even imagine her having a ghostwriter.
Well, just for that record, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Lyte is an incredible writer, right? So, it's just what happened that particular day is that Lyte had wrote a dope rhyme, but it was all statistics. Mm-hmm. And so LL looked around and says, who's going after you, or who's going before you? I almost remember it as who's going after you. And she said, Daddy-o. And he said, you can't go, who before you or whatever. You can't do that kind of rhyme with this kind of record. And so basically he kind of snatched the, we all write on these legal pads. Even to this day, sometimes I do it. I do my phone a little bit, but snatched the pad from her and started writing the rhyme.
Funky fresh dressed to impress, ready to party. Money in your pocket, dying to move your body. To get inside, you pay the whole $10. Scotch tape with a razor blade, tape to your collar. Leave the guns in the crack and the knives alone. MC Lyte's on the microphone, bum rushing and pushing, snatching and taxing. I cram to understand why brothers don't be maxing. There's only one disco, they'll close one more. You ain't guarding the door, so what you got a gun for? Do you rob the rich and give to the poor? Yo, Daddy-o. School them some more. Straight from the mouth. And Daddy-o. Do a crime, end up in jail and gotta go. Cause you could do crime and get paid today, and tomorrow you're behind bars in the worst way. Far from your family, cause you're locked away. Now tell me, do you really think crime pays? Scheming on taking what your brother had? You little sucker. You talking all that jazz.
I remember it like it was yesterday, watching him pace back and forth, going funky, fresh, ready to jam, ready to part. I remember him, kind of going through, but yeah, that rhyme. Let's be clear that that's the only time in life that Lyte has had a ghostwriter.
So, and then you also made mention before that when Lil' Kim came out, she was hardcore like a dude. Do you wish Big would have kept her that way? Do some parts of you wish that?
Nah. Big used to have this line that he used to say to me all the time. He used to say, it's all in the plan, Daddy-o. And that was every time I heard something that he did that I didn't like I hated Juicy. right? I hated Juicy because, you know, he had this incredible hardcore album, some of which actually got taken off of the original. Puff would later release those records with features on them, but they were all Biggie, and because Meth was the only feature on the album. And all of these hardcore, like, it was just, I had an opinion, I was wrong, but I had an opinion when I was listening to the Biggie demos on cassette. I said, this kid, after this kid raps, there's gonna be no more hardcore rap because nobody's better than this guy. I hear them talking they little hardcore here and there. This kid is, I don't know who this dude is. You know, he sounded like he came up with us, like with me, Melly Mel, Chuck, and all of us, but then he was so modern. And so I couldn't, it took me a while to understand the dopeness of Biggie, and I'm still trying to dissect it a little bit, right? Like, because it's very complicated who he is. And, you know, all these hardcore records, I'm like, man, he's going to rule the game. He's going to stop people from doing hardcore. They're going to be afraid to do it after they hear him, you know? And then Puff makes this Juicy record. And I'm like, what is that? And Biggs, it's all in the plan, Daddy-O. So when we made all these records on Kim, and Lil' Kim was sounding hard and like a dude, when I heard Players Anthem, the first draft of it, I was like, that don't even sound like how she be in my studio. And Big said, it's all in the plan, Daddy-O. So no, I don't. I mean, I trust Big. Yeah, God bless the dead. If Big would have lived, he probably would have been the best A&R man in the world. People forget, or people don't know, that it was Big that picked Flavor in Your Ear for Craig Mack.
Wow.
Puff's running around like a madman. I don't know what I'm going to do. He pulls the dad out and says, man, use this. Because Big ain't like Flavor in Your Ear beat. He didn't like it for him. He came back on the remix, but he didn't really, that wasn't
so
his
he gave
type.
Craig Mack?
Yeah, so he told Puff, use this on Craig Mack. And I'm saying the kid was that brilliant. Like, he could look at something and say, that's gonna work. Or look at something and say, that's not gonna work. Like, just one, the kid is brilliant. Like, Biggie was brilliant. So if he would have lived, I'm saying, I've been around great A&R guys, and that's no disrespect to, like, even some of my heroes like Clive Davis and Irving Azoff when they go back in their days, but Big had all of that. Mm-hmm. He knew. He could hear it. Yep, it's going to work. Nope.
This is an interesting question. You've been coined as the hardest working person or artist in the industry. How did you earn that respect?
I don't know. I think it's Lil B, but it's really not me. Lil B works harder than me. Let me see who works harder. Papoose might work harder than me right now because Pap is killing him. He's doing a EP a month. But I know why people say that. And they say it because I don't stop. Like, I always got 15 things to do, always. Mm-hmm. You know, so when 5 drop off, 5 more come on. Okay. So I've always got things going on. So right now, I'm working on Self-Destruction 2. We're writing the Stetsasonic album. I'm preparing my next album, to the First Team album to get released. I'm still crafting a mental health album that I have. I'm doing an album, me and Indigo Phoenix, who have a single dropping, a video at least, to that single dropping pretty soon. We decided to do an album together, and then I've been colluding with a bunch of these producers to do like full projects on me. So I'm gonna do like 2 with M-Rock, 1 with Padre the Pronoun. Who else? There's this kid, my son just found this kid, Young Chubbs in Atlanta. That's like the next Alchemist. I'm doing a record with him. Like, I'm always doing something. Like, I'm always rapping or produce. Sometimes I produce. I produce a lot less music now than I used to, because I get excited by hearing what other people do. Right. And now that I'm rapping again, like since 2016, now that I'm rapping again, I can be the rapper, and I love that. Like, I have an album out right now, the Go the Antidote album, and I didn't do any of the records, and I'm so happy because I just got to sit there and write and figure it out. You know, of course I do arrangements and crafting and harmonies and all of that, choruses and all that, but at least, you know, the basic tracks were not done by me. So I don't know, somehow I end up being a little more excited about what other people do than what I do. But I see why they would say that. It's because I never stop working. Like I just do it. Like it's like second nature to me now. So I just do it.
Okay, just do it. All right. So not Nike, but And1. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So the And1 thing, I have a friend. His name is Set Free Richardson. If you ever see anybody with those 7 hats, that's his, right?
Right.
But he's an incredible marketer, probably one of the best marketing guys I've ever seen and known. Young friend of mine actually produced on my first solo album that came out on Polygram in '93. You know, young producer, DJ, from Philadelphia, but moved to Queens. Came to me one day and said, man, I got this idea, but I need some help. And I said, what? And he said, well, it's a company that wants to hire me out of Paoli, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to write a proposal. And I know you do. And so I wrote him a proposal and he got the job. So once he got the job, he called me up and said, man, I got an idea, man. I said, what? He said, I want to do video mixtapes. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Video mixtapes? He says, no, listen, man, I got all this footage from the Rucker, right? I got Skip to Malou. I got all these guys on tape. And what I would like to do is put music up underneath it, new music. So that's where I need you. I need you to help, you know, go out and help me. Because at that time I was working for MCA Universal. So he said, get me music. And then more importantly, you can get me drops from, you know, big people. I don't know no big people. So you could get big people to say, hey, this is Pasta News from De La Soul, and you're listening to the And1 mixtape, right? And that was all it was, right? So I went out, got a bunch of drops for him, used some of the records that we had coming out, but reach out to other A&R people like, hey, you got something coming out, you know, this is free promo for you, whatever. He put it together, and the first ones was on VHS. They blew up, like they blew up. And I was like, yo, you was right. Like, it was crazy, right? So after that, I actually went, And1 actually made a separate company based on how well they did with the mixtapes called hoopstv.com. And basically what we were was an And1 mixtape daily. So I went inside and was working for them. I used to go out to Paoli at least once or twice a week. I was doing all the sample clearances for them. I was doing all the copyright stuff. I was getting all the music that we would use in the, you know, like in footage and stuff, and making sure that all of that was cleared. Mm-hmm. And then And1 continued to blow up, and they were able to like birth a little league. And I was like, y'all really want to do this? And they was like, yeah. And so they had a few of the cats, mostly the Harlem cats in the beginning, that used to be up at the Rucker doing all the little tricks and all of that. And they had them go out from city to city. They did a tour, it worked. They did another tour, it worked. And then, like, miraculously, a sneaker that was just really a budget sneaker becomes kind of like, it actually got a little name out there. But yeah, I helped Set Free put together the mixtape, and from then on, you know, I still consult him on a few things, but he's doing some really cool things. He's got an art gallery physically in the Bronx. Did it virtually. I think they're going back now that COVID is over. They're going to go back to a physical gallery. So he's been doing some great things.
That's crazy because And1 is still on and popping. Like, it's pretty much a brand that's everywhere now. Yeah.
We blew that up. Like, I give credit to my man Free, because even the team that we had at And1 only came in because of him.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It was all because of him. Me there because of him. All the people that was there were there because of him. And all those people have gone on to do some really incredible things too.
Okay, so speaking of incredible things, you have a catalog that's, I can't even number the singles and albums that you do have out, although even back in the day, you did several or quite a few albums, but most of your projects were co-projects with other people. So what's your favorite collaboration?
Oh man, probably Third World.
Third World.
Forbidden Love. Yeah, probably Third World, Forbidden Love. I mean, I did some collabs with a bunch of people, and I like them. I think some of the things that I've done have been dope. But I think working with Third World, one thing, the guy Cat in Third World, who's the guitar player, it is a reggae band, but he's classically trained. He can play Beethoven. So hanging out with those guys, they were like musical geniuses. Like you think, oh, I'm gonna just get with a little reggae, you know, Jamaican reggae band, and they'll talk about Bob Marley and they'll talk about other music that came from Jamaica. No, these guys were geniuses. So working with them, it was just wow. Like they don't know all these things. And so now as I'm producing records for them, we're able to use, you know, everything that I'm bringing, but also everything that they bring. And so, you know, and then on top of that, Third World was already one of my favorite groups from those records like Now That We Found Love. You know what I'm saying? So they was already one of my favorite groups. So I think, yeah, I think working with Third World, that's probably my favorite. That's probably my favorite collab.
Okay. Now, and you said something that was so interesting, but it doesn't take away from the answer or the question. You're the hardest working man in the business because you got albums coming out back to back to back like a young kid. So that's nuts,
right?
That's crazy.
But that's what I learned from though. I learned from the young kids. Like I'm looking at them. So some of the things they do I can do, and some I can't. I'll give you an example. The album I have out now, Go to Antidote album, was called First Team. Who had dropped? I think it wasn't Thugger. It was I think it might have been 21 Savage, or maybe it was Key Glock. But one of them had dropped, I don't know, maybe 2 months before I was to put my album out. And I told my team, I sent my team like 24 records, you know? And one of the guys on my team shot me down. Nah, D, we can't do this. You know, we had just came off of From My Hood to You. It was classic. All of, you know, the writers loved it, you know, all of that. So, you know, we need to keep that in mind, you know, in terms of, because what he mentioned was one of the things that happened with one of the writers. And one of the writers said, to me, physically, I wanted to skip the records. When I knew it was an album from one of you guys, I wanted to just listen, but not disrespect you, and just skip through it. And I couldn't skip through any record. You know, I couldn't. And so that was like a big accolade for us. So this is what my guy is telling my guy Hasib. He's saying, D, remember what we did with From My Hood to You? So, you know, we got to have that, you know, non-skippable thing. So that's too many records. So I got mad at him. I got off the phone. Then I got on the phone with C-Doc, who's my main producer. And I was like, yeah, man, I just got off the phone with Hasib, man. And he's telling me that I can't do these 24 records or whatever. And he's like, well, D, it's your album. You can do what you want to do. But Griselda's only doing 9 records. And I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? And I got mad at both of them. I hung up again. And then I thought about it for about 20 minutes straight, like kind of fuming. And I kind of recognized what I needed to do. And I said, okay. And I called him back up. I said, okay, so this is not the First Team album. This album is the Go to Antidote album, because I had already had a record called Go to Antidote. And I talked a lot about goats, you know, throughout the record. So I found the 11, I think it's 11. I found the 11 songs that fit that title and did Go to Antidote. But I wanted to follow Key Glock and do 24 songs. But then, you know, but the other example was Griselda, who's also a new band that does 9. So, but you know, I gotta watch. I have to keep my mind and my eye on what is presently happening, because it's all hip hop to me. I have friends that argue with me and says, man, they shouldn't even call this new music hip hop. They should call it something else. I disagree. I say if Young Thug is not my son, then who's his father?
Facts.
Right? If 21 Savage is not my son, then who's his father? Like, nobody's his father. Like, none of the reggae people is his father. None of the pop people is his father. None of the R&B people is his father. It's us. Mm-hmm. So if they wayward kids, it's our fault. And I always take the responsibility. I say, hey, man, you guys talk about these records, but you ain't making none. Mm-hmm. So you could say whatever you want. You could be Mr. Big Willie from 1988, 89 and had the biggest thing smoking. But when you start throwing venom at these kids who they don't stop. You know, I got a post that I want to put up maybe sometime next week. I'll do it. The young boy Gunna. I got it from somebody else. And it showed all Gunna's mixtapes. And Gunna got like 12 of them things before you even heard who he was.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? So same thing with T Grizzly, same thing. Even K Michelle's an R&B artist, and she got 5 mixtapes up on Dat Piff. She might only have 2 real projects, but she still, I'm like, yo, they not stopping. So I don't have the right at this point or the opportunity at this point to say, oh man, I'm daddy-o. You know, I'm gonna do an album, but they better feel that, because I ain't gonna be doing no album a year. I ain't gonna be doing no album every 6 months. I don't have that. I'll just get forgotten.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'll just get forgotten. I could go ahead and play on my ego all I want. They will walk right past me. And I came to the conclusion that there's no way that I shouldn't be a better rapper now than I ever was. Okay. It's just stupid. I said, we're not basketball players, so our knees don't go. Because if Magic knees ain't go, he still will bust everybody on the court right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just physical. It's just physicality. That's why we always having these crazy arguments, you know, of like LeBron James versus so-and-so, or Steph Curry versus so-and-so, because we're thinking about them in their heyday when they had knees.
Right.
But it's not like that for us. And I thought about 2 musicians that I love. I thought about Miles Davis and I thought about Jimi Hendrix. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, neither one of those guys, if they were living, would just let you just sit on their old material. They would be pushing the envelope. And Miles proved it, because before he passed, the album was produced by Easy Mo Bee.
Right. Wow.
So he proved that he was ready to go to the next level. So I'm like, okay, so what's next level for me? And the only way I could even determine what next level was for me is to listen to what's going on. Do I make records like that? No. Do I rap on trap beats? Absolutely not. But I got to listen to them to know what I need to do.
Right. That's right. And I like that. I really do.
Yeah. I listen to everybody. Like, I listen to everybody. Some people get repeat. Some people don't. Some people are real silly and I like them. Like, I like Key Glock and Young Dolph for whatever reason. They tickle my fancy. I rock with them. I can't rock with Pooh Shiesty. I don't like him. You know what I mean? Right. But I like the little kid Juice WRLD before he passed away. I like him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I like Young Thug. I like 21 Savage. There's a couple of cats in between there that I don't like. I'm not a Blueface fan. There's a few of them that I'm not fans of. I like T Grizzly though. Like, you know what I mean? So I figure out the kind of stuff that I like and that I can stomach. And I still know that, honestly, yeah, J. Cole does rap better than all of them. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what it is. Kendrick does rap better than all of them. I'm just not just a J. Cole Kendrick dude because I'm an old school rapper or whatever they want to call me. I like saying classic hip hop. But because I'm a classic hip hop artist, doesn't mean that I only like the guys that can really rap. Because even in our day and time, and I'm not going to mention any names here, but even in our day and time, there was a bunch of cats that couldn't really rap. You know, if you look at it, if Rakim and Chris wanted to be the only games in town at that time, they could have been.
Right.
Right? They could have just battled all of us, beat all of us, and made us shut up and just made records. You know, but we shared spaces. And I'm not saying we were corny, but I'm saying we weren't lyrical. They were. Right. But then we might have been more fun than them. I know I'm more fun than Rakim. You know, because he didn't make fun music like that. Microphone Fiend came across fun because the video was fun. But his music was very serious.
Right, it was.
And we were doing Sally and all of this other kind of bopping and jop. So everybody, you know, we all had shared spaces. So I try to remind people of that. It's way more rappers nowadays. I get that. You know what I mean? And that's why you get the plethora of material that you have. But don't think that nobody's rapping. Apathy is there. Self-Titled is there. Immortal Technique is there. The kid Crooked Eye is there. Royce the 5'9" still exists. Don't act like people can't rap nowadays. There's some rappers out there that'll twist you apart. Vinny Paz and them, I'm talking about, will rip you to shreds when it come down to just the words and the rhymes. So don't act like nobody's rapping. It's just, I tell people this all the time, and it's not, I don't say this with pride, I just say it with information. It's black radio that failed us. It wasn't the record companies or the rappers.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the rappers alone, leave the record companies alone. Record companies is all about money. So if you were selling product and you found out you could get a t-shirt cheaper and print it for cheaper and sell it for more, you would too.
Right.
So don't blame the record companies. But black radio is the one where Tony Braxton makes an album a year ago that Babyface produces and don't play. What?
That's crazy.
Gladys will make an album right now and you won't play it. What? This is Gladys Knight. This is our queen.
Mm.
We shouldn't have to be listening to DJ Cassidy. No disrespect to him, but we shouldn't have to be listening to DJ Cassidy to hear our queen.
Facts.
We should be able to turn on the radio and hear our queen.
Right.
And somebody else got to take a seat. If it's 2 Chainz, sit down, 2 Chainz. The queen is here. You know what I mean? But black radio decided it just doesn't fit our format.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's horrible, man. They're horrible.
Well, you know, we're still in the phase or era of cancel culture. So if it doesn't,
Oh yeah,
you know.
it's crazy. It's crazy out here. It's real crazy. But I mean, if we look into, I got one of my partners. His name is Azim. When we first got together, he said something to me, and I really didn't want to tell him, "Yo, I think you bugging, bro." You know, he was a man. We need to revitalize hip hop. We need to. He's saying all these things to me, and I'm like, man. No damn revitalization. We're gonna get in here, get our piece of money or whatever popularity, and get out like anybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then him still being on my team, he goes out. I talk to him about self-destruction too. He goes out and gets me a deal for it, right? And he goes through 2 or 3 deals before he says yes. And then he says, "This is the one you're gonna sign, D." I tell people all the time, I have no yes men around me. I got all no men around me. All they do is tell me no all damn day, right? I'm serious. Like, I be wanting to do stuff. Nah, D, you can't say that. I'm wild. Like, no, D, you know. So he goes, gets me this deal. We work the self-destruction 2 thing out. This thing is working out crazy now, you know. And between that, then last week, 2 weeks ago, he calls me and says, man, I'm talking to this guy, man. And he's working with Flash. He's, you know, doing some things for Flash. I think you should talk to Grandmaster Flash. I'm like, Flash is my man. This is okay. Last week, me and Flash is face to face, and we talk. And I'm starting to get the vision, like, because of the type of support and the type of things that we're doing, that we may do some real revital. This might be our movement, all of us put together that's doing it, may be the hip hop revival. I see it being, and now I understand what he's saying. If I use the concept of Christian revival in my head, I get it.
Right.
Because revival was always about re-energizing the church and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, reading what they're supposed to do, and living the way they're supposed to live. And a lot of times they did those things in tents, but people came from miles and miles and miles, and the next thing you know, that city is rejuvenized. Mm-hmm. So why not hip-hop? Why not rejuvenize hip hop? Why not throw some life in it? And that's what I intend to do. And I told people this a long time ago, and now they see what I'm saying. I always told them, I started making these records again in 2016, but I always told them, I love Daddy. It's me. I like me. I like what I do.
Right.
Stetsasonic makes records. You guys are gonna move. Meaning it's gonna make you want to do things. It's gonna make you feel energized. And I was right. You know, we haven't dropped a single really yet, but we dropped like a snippet of the video, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago. And I was right, because it's Stet. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's the same band that you've always been loving. You hear a record from them and it's dope, and you haven't heard them in 30 years.
Right.
But it's a dope record. You're like, yo, then your mind starts thinking, maybe hip hop, because even all the fans of classic hip hop, a lot of them, and this is nothing to them, I understand it, but a lot of them have lost hope in terms of revitalization of it. You know, they got kids sometimes they got grandkids. They're in the car listening to these trap beats with these kids. They're looking at these TikTok videos. They're looking at all the stuff they're doing. And they like, yeah, well, in my day, they did it this way, but I guess I got to just let them have what they have. But the only reason they saying that is none of us making records. Right. Ain't no new Big Daddy Kane record out. Ain't no new Rakim record out. Ain't no new Kid Play record out. Ain't no new Light record out. I could keep going. Right. But because we're not making records, they not revitalized. Right. So I'm listening.
Some people making records, but not your caliber. So and that's a fascinating point that you made. You are 60 years old, but you seem like you're like in your 20s. Your flow is insane.
Well, that's from the youngs that's listening to the young kids. Because I be borrowing stuff from them that they don't even know I borrow. They don't even know. Yo, nobody would know I took that. Not the whole thing, because I don't take the whole thing or nothing. And I'm not like that. I'm doing it more like a horn player would do another horn player, right? Or a drummer would do another drummer. If you around the drummer and you find out that he's using these cymbals, and every time you go see him, you done played 3-4 shows with this guy. And every time that this is a drummer, a drummer to drummer thing, that cymbal really means something to you. Right. More than like you'll go out and buy that cymbal.
That's right.
You're not him. You're not going to play the songs he plays, but you realize the impact of that cymbal, especially the most important part is the way it resonated for you.
Facts.
So it's the same thing I do with the young kids. Especially the battle rappers, because I'm listening to battle rap. I tell people all the time, I say, man, you think I'm nice now, just blame it on T-Rex. Because when I start seeing what these battle rappers could do, I'm like, you could do that with a word? Ooh. And I'm like, okay. Took me 6 albums, but six albums later, you see me saying lines like, Conrad Murray a case because I kill Mike. Because I know how to do that now. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to do that before. I tell people all the time, I never was a lyricist. Oh, Daddy, you was a lyricist. No, I wasn't. I was a guy that made great rap records and good rhymes. I had good rhymes. Some step rhymes are good rhymes.
Right.
But I wasn't, Rakim was a lyricist. G-Rap's a lyricist. Big L was a lyricist. Them is the guys that doing these flips with words. And you like, damn, that's crazy. Did you hear what he just said? I never forget when Rakim dropped I think it was Eric B for President, and he said that line about I take 7 MCs, put them in the line. People talked about that for a year. I'm talking about rappers. I ain't even talking about fans. Right. I'm talking about amongst rap.
Right.
God, just said.
He earned that respect.
Yeah, he earned that respect because he was a lyricist, and I got it, and I never got that kind of, you know what I mean? So I'm thirsty for it now. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that's what they were doing, And to me, I guess the most fun part about it is I know it's all that Bruce Lee element of surprise for us. Not only me as a solo artist, not only the other guys in my group that are thinking about doing solo records, but us as Stetsasonic as a collective, it's the surprise factor. And nobody expected to hear us doing nothing, period. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. But now hearing us spit dope, it's like, okay, I wasn't even expecting to hear no Stetsasonic. Right. But this what they're doing? Like I'm all in. So I mean, I just try to, I try to learn and gain from everything that I see out there. Even some of the R&B dudes, some of them, not a lot of them, but some of the R&B dudes, I learned things from them too.
Well, you've been definitely honest.
Yeah.
So that's something that you told Ebron in an interview, and you said all rap music is whack that don't have samples. Are you still standing on that?
I do. This is what I feel. maybe I shouldn't have said all, but if I said it, I'm standing by it. I know how no samples got in the game.
Right.
Because I worked for a record company.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was there were two, well, maybe more than two, but there were definitely two big lawsuits that happened with Biz Markie with Warner, mm-hmm. and the Beastie Boys with Def Jam. They got sued for two words, "Hey Leroy."
What?
And it was huge. These were huge lawsuits. They were the first sample-based lawsuits. So these were copyright lawsuits, right? And so people went in and you know, got money and all of that. And so record companies, they got punked. I mean, that's just the only way to put it. They got punked, they got scared, and they started telling people, bring me stuff, but don't bring me no samples. Bring me stuff without samples. And a lot of that stuff at that time still was coming from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And so we're DJ culture. Like, it's not like Studio Tone from Vallejo, Oakland area, or like any of the guy N.O. Joe that's in Houston. Mm-hmm. Those guys come out of the church, so it's different. Us, we were DJ-based culture. So now when you move that out, none of us could play. We can't play. Right. Zaytoven could play. We can't play. You know, Zay come out of the church. He in Atlanta. Southerners, they all, you know, so that was different. So that's what ended up happening. And the music just started sounding really, really stale. You know, it was a bunch of bing, 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 bing. That's the only way we knew to play the keyboard. You know what I mean? So it was a bunch of that kind of stuff going on. And so I say that, and the reason I make that statement because music with samples is always gonna sound better. And you know, I know it to be true. I do know it to be true. But then something just happened 2 days ago, and it was solid proof. Fat Joe, Remy Ma, and the kid Dre, not Dre from LA, not Dre from New York, Dre from Cool and Dre in Miami, put out a record. It's called We Back Outside. And they using that Frankie Beverly Before I Let Go, and it's bananas. Wow. I give you one more. There's a record out by Lil Fame or M.O.P. right now called the Al Green joint. And he's actually rapping on love and happiness in between the words. So Al Green will say a word and he'll da-da-da-da-da. It's so crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it's crazy because those compositions was always what we needed as rappers in the very beginning, because we only had our DJs that were playing these compositions. And, you know, how do you do that to me? Like, it's like I'm rapping to the Barry White Orchestra, right? And you rip that. Now I'm rapping to somebody going ping, ping, ping. You know what I mean? So it's nothing's ever gonna be. And then when you hear your favorite stuff that everybody loves, Kendrick, when Jay-Z drops, when J. Cole drops, you hear samples.
True. Okay, so I have two more questions because you look like you're ready to get out the car. Whoop, whoop.
No. I opened it because it was hot, and then my AC makes noise because I got a stick. So.
Oh Lord.
I got a race car, so.
Okay, get it how you live. So.
Yeah.
I do have two questions.
Yes.
Your out of the thousands of projects that you have coming out, what's the most recent? Where can people cop it?
So my most recent is the Go to Antidote album. I always tell people, go to my Bandcamp. First of all, I make more money because I'm gonna be, you know, fun fact, I don't know if you've seen this, but I'll say it on your show. There's a video floating around for that Mos Def has floating around. They call him Yasin Bey, or he calls himself Yasin Bey now, but about, you know, just he really breaks down this whole streaming thing. You know, you stream 1 million times and you get $4 grand. I mean, that's retarded.
Right.
If we sold 1 million records, we get more than $1 million. Like, so we really, if CDs look like it was taking us off, this streaming thing is just beyond. Right. Are my records on all the platforms? They absolutely are, because they need to be there. And like people with iPhones only like to go to their Apple Music and get it. So I get that part, but I always tell people, just in support of me, if you want to support me, sorry about that. Just in support of me, if you want to support me, go to my Bandcamp, professordaddio.bandcamp.com. The latest album is up there, which is Go to Antidote, and I got some cool features on that. The classic album that everybody loved last year, From My Hood to You, is up there. But, you know, I mean, we got a special price if you buy the whole catalog. So, you know, from time to time, people just go to my Bandcamp and just get it all, especially people that like classic hip hop, because it's some gems on, like, you know, even on the past records. So that's there. But, you know, in addition to that, just to be fair, it's available on all platforms as well.
Okay. And where can people, well, and then do you have anything else going on? Like, you doing movie scores, you got paraphernalia, like what's good?
Well, I have, we got the Stet shirts that we just did in the new Stet video that everybody's asking for. That's at stetmerch.com. It's just STET merch, one word.com. And those t-shirts are there. And we got a big Stetsasonic show coming up August 28th at the Band Shell in Coney Island. Stetsasonic and friends. We're going to have a bunch of special surprises and stuff. And that's going to be a pretty big concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can our viewers follow you?
I am Professor Daddio, one word, everywhere. I think the only place I'm not Professor Daddio is on LinkedIn, but I mostly do professional stuff up there anyway. But Facebook, I'm Professor Daddio. Twitter, I'm Professor Daddio. Instagram, I'm Professor Daddio. And the new ProfessorDaddio.com is coming soon. There's one up now, but what we're doing with the site is amazing. So the new ProfessorDaddio.com is coming. But I'm Professor Daddio everywhere.
All right, I'm
YouTube too. I'm Professor Daddio on YouTube too. Just if you go to YouTube and search me, just be prepared. Like, you know, get used to the opinionated me, because you know, I did something. They had something premiere on YouTube. A sister, one of my sisters. I mean, you know, sister, soul sister, not my blood sister. Her name is Leah Wills. She's doing a I don't know how many pieces, but she's doing pieces of a documentary, and she's actually putting it on YouTube and previewing it and all of that. And it's called Hip Hop's First Gay Family. It's about Bambaataa and the allegations.
Wow.
And so she aired one of my parts last night. And just be, you know, if you search me on YouTube, just be ready for some controversy, because I don't hold my tongue.
Well, I'm gonna watch it, and then I'm gonna let you know.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I had a bomb interview with you.
No doubt. And we'll talk soon. Just stay in touch. And if you need anything, just email me. I'll get you out anything that you need.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Peace.